So before you can pitch an art story to a media organization, you have to know that you have a story. And this is one of the biggest obstacles. There are so many interesting things happening with individuals and organizations that are not recognized as being stories. So the first thing we want to do is think like a reporter and think, how is what I'm doing or what I'm involved in a potential story for media to share with my community? So put on your reporter hat and think, what does a reporter want to know? A reporter wants to report the news, and so a reporter is thinking about what is new, what is different, and why now? These are the underpinning questions that determine whether something is newsworthy. The best stories are not just event-based. It's not just that something's happening, it ties into a bigger issue, it ties into perhaps a national conversation we're having, but that doesn't mean events are off the table. So let me give you some examples of stories that I've covered over the past few years and how they answer those three basic questions. And they don't necessarily have to answer all of them, but they answer at least one of them. For instance, the annual art fair in a town is expanding with more artist booths from a wider geographic area. That addresses what's new, what's different. The local mural project has a new collection of murals depicting forgotten historical figures like people of color and women. And so that's very much a why now and what's new kind of a story. A local studio has an exhibition of handmade masks around Halloween time. Why now? Right, it's Halloween. A famous figure, an artist, a writer, a musician is coming to town for an event. What's new? Why now? A local artist has been commissioned to do a painting for a national anniversary. What's new? Why now? A touring cellist is performing classical music in bars. That's very much a what's different, right? It's an unusual hook for the story. And anniversaries, of course, always answer the question, why now? So now that you know that something you're involved with is a story, how do you go about pitching it? Well, you can start by thinking, what kind of story is this? Who's the audience for it? Is it a local audience? Is it a statewide audience? Maybe it's a national audience. And so that'll affect who you go to pitch this story to. Maybe it's a story that very much fits in with what your local paper covers, or perhaps it's something that Wyoming Public Radio would want to cover from a statewide angle. And maybe it's something a TV station would be interested in. They're not mutually exclusive, but maybe you want to target one and not another, or maybe you want to hit all of them. Then you can decide, who do I talk to at these organizations? Is there a general email for pitches? Or do you know a reporter who covers a certain beat or has interests that align with the kind of story that you want to tell? More emails are better. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. So if you can target multiple people at an organization, do so. You can also think a little bit like a reporter again and think about, what kind of a story is this? Is this just a short news blurb? Is this a longer feature story? Maybe it's an interview. Think about who you might have on hand to talk about the story. Maybe it's you, maybe it's somebody else at the organization, maybe it's somebody else involved in the project. And maybe there's some sort of scene that the reporter could come to. Maybe there's a studio, maybe there's a class in progress they can visit. And of course, if you're promoting an event, you want to give plenty of lead time so the event can be promoted in advance. If you have no response to your pitch, and this happens because we get lots of pitches all the time, be the squeaky wheel. Make a follow-up email, make a phone call, target a different reporter. Maybe there's somebody else you should talk to, maybe a different media organization. And typically with one of those follow-ups, you will start to get response. The key to your pitch, make sure you answer those questions. Why now? What's different? What's new? And you should be able to have your pitch picked up and have your event covered in the media.